Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. Apologies, I'm a little bit ill at the time of this recording, so bear with me through this. Also, if you're wondering what the yellow stars are on my face, I've got a couple of spots. So these are pimple patches, and the hat is just a hat that I like, so it's not a Peaky Blinders cosplay. Tommy, by order of the Peaky Blinders. That was so cringe. I apologise. Anyway, so we're back on WAYOFLIFESQ. So he reacted to a video of his recently where he went to the supposed, alleged, most racist town in America. And during that video, he got talking to a particular gentleman who was fairly outspoken on immigration problems in America, but also outspoken on the Israel-Palestine genocide. So WAYOFLIFESQ promised us the full conversation with that guy, and he's released it a few days ago. So we're going to react to that, and I really want to see if he's got the same energy for all of those topics as he does for white Europeans invading America and the atrocities they committed towards the natives there when they've got there. So let's see if this man is fair and balanced in all of his arguments. And this is Muslim Confronts the Most Racist Man in America by WAYOFLIFESQ. Let's go.
Do you love people of all faiths and all colors?
They're spreading their disease, their mental illness.
So if they have a mental illness, like you said, isn't it our responsibility to help them? The white race is the better race. Is that true?
Why does this only apply to white countries?
Please tell me more.
Why is no one in Israel telling them, you know, you oppress the indigenous Israelis, the Palestinians? Wow.
So there you go. That's what he mentioned. This is what we saw in the previous video. So we already know about this. So let's see what he has to say for the rest of it.
Is this something that you would actually read to learn more about Muslims, Islam? This is Tom, online known as the most racist man in America.
Describe black person with one word.
A criminal at the very least. Black people apparently love to shoot other black people.
And that's me, confronting his racist beliefs and trying to give him a Quran to potentially heal his heart. I traveled over 2,000 miles to the most racist town in America to visit the KKK headquarters and to meet Tom. My name is SQ, and I visit the most hostile environments to educate the people about Islam and to give out free translations of the Quran. I wanted to challenge his beliefs and unpack his radical values, but his inner racist was triggered, and that was shocking to see.
Do you have a prayer rug? Us so-called racists find them incompatible with the way we want to live and exist.
To blame that on minorities or black people or someone who's not white, that's not necessarily fair.
All of this diversity stuff is aimed right at white people.
That. I mean, WAYOFLIFESQ has just hit the nail on the head there, really, hasn't he? To blame all issues that crop up by one person of a particular racial demographic or religious demographic on the rest of them and say that they're all like it. I mean, we know how damaging that is. It's the sign of someone who's not educated and more likely to believe what someone tells them, believe lies and propaganda that are pumped to them, instead of doing their own independent research and looking into things for themselves.
It's destroying this country.
Do you feel like you are acting upon Christ-like when this type of behavior takes place where one race is better than the other? I knew that the only thing that could change him was the Quran. This was the final hope for his heart. But would he even accept a Quran, or would he reject it due to the racism in his heart? This is a story of one Muslim's relentless effort to give da'wah to someone the world has written off. What you're about to witness next is
I mean, it's a very good, I have to, say props to WAYOFLIFESQ here. The idea of this, like he says, the world has written him off as a racist. They've labelled him as the most racist man in America. And WAYOFLIFESQ is willing to try and change his perspective. And I think that's something that should be commended.
Raw, uncut video of a Muslim confronting the most racist man in America. Viewer discretion is advised. Hi guys, we're visiting from New York. We just wanted to speak to potentially someone named Thomas Robb.
Yes, I know him.
Would you know him? Yeah, so what's your name, sir?
Tom Bowie.
Tom Bowie. Okay, very nice. And we wanted to potentially schedule an interview with him. Do you know how we could get in contact with him or any help?
I can possibly help you.
Really? Wow.
Liberals were all for free speech until they had so much of it they could shut other people's down. Well, they don't believe in reality. A man is a woman or whatever they decide it is. I would like to convince them that gravity isn't real. Just step off the roof.
I mean, he's just straight into it. Straight into it.
Let them see how social science cushions their fall.
Got you. So how could you possibly assist us with this? And, any type of help that you could have, we would be genuinely very appreciative.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll see what it is.
Go ahead. My first impressions of...
Just so everyone aware, I think Thomas Raab is the Grand Master of the KKK. We all know the history and the current ideology of that despicable organisation. So I probably don't need to fully explain to you who they are, but if you don't, then go and do some research, guys. There's plenty of material out there for you to learn about it. And if you want me to react to a video educating you guys on it, then let me know. But yeah, that's who this Thomas Raab gentleman is.
Tom was that he had a certain charm to him.
He's not a gentleman. I shouldn't even say gentleman,
As
to
he
be
went
honest.
to alert
He's a
the Grand
dirtbag.
Wizard, I wanted to know, what was his affiliation to the KKK church? So what's your relationship with this?
I attend the church out there when I'm able, and I know a fair number of the people in the area. I'm with the fire department here.
Okay, beautiful.
I'm the fire chief and an emergency medical responder.
Very nice. Very nice. How did you know that I was of Arabic descent or perhaps Muslim? Like, how are you familiar?
Dashiki.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
The full beard also sort of gives you away.
It was clear he recognized me to be a Muslim, but my mission was just getting started. Before I could offer him a Quran, I first needed to understand, what did he even know about the Quran? Do you happen to know what this
The
book is?
Quran.
Yeah, what do you know about it? Do you want to help distribute 1 million Qur'ans across America by the end of 2026? Because that's my mission. I want 1 million homes in America to have a free translation of the Quran. And the crazy part is, it's only $2 to sponsor a Quran. You can even become a monthly donor of a Quran. Link is in the pinned comment if you want to help spread Islam. This da'wah mission is not possible without your support. Now,
Brothers and sisters, if you believe in Way of Life SQ's mission there and you'd like to donate and support him, the original video will be in the comments as usual. You can go to his original video, click the link, donate, and help spread the word.
let's get back to Tom. Do you happen to know what this
The
book is?
Quran.
Yeah, what do you know about it? Because you're very well versed. I'm shocked. Not because of that, but I've literally spoken to people and they did not know. In Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
What do you know about this?
The most tolerant people are the most ignorant. They're also, in my opinion, the most disrespectful. Every culture has something of value for the most part.
Sure.
And us so-called racists, we tend to know a lot more about these other cultures.
Okay.
I mean, he said a very true statement there. Every culture has something of value. Probably not something you'd expect to hear from someone who's been called the most racist man in America. We'll go on to hear what else he has to say now, I suppose.
From the American Indian to the Muslims.
Sure.
And we find them incompatible with the way we want to live
There
and
we go.
exist.
And what way is that, sir?
I myself got into this to fight white genocide.
Okay.
Before he moves on to that absolute myth that he's about to spew, he made a comment there about how so-called racists know more about these cultures that they're supposedly against than less ignorant people or less conservative people. I disagree with that. I can testify to that in the UK. There's a channel on YouTube called Stairway to Freedom who recently put out a video at one of Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson's facade marches, put the Christ back in Christmas, as he was calling it. I mean, he's about as Christian as my dog's left foot, to be honest with you. But let him pretend that he is for the sake of his Zionist donors. And there are a huge amount of people there. Well, not a huge amount. It was about 3,000. Despite them trying to make the numbers even more inflated than they were. And Stairway to Freedom got talking to a few of them and asking them questions, why they're doing it, why they're representing it, and they always turned it back on Islam. Islam's not compatible, Islam's violent, Islam says this, the Quran says this, and basically everything coming out of their mouth was an absolute lie. The quotes they were coming out with, first of all, were not quotes from the Quran, or they were just direct picking them out, not actually giving the full context and quotation behind that particular surah or that passage. And what they were just regurgitating everything that Stephen Yaxley Lennon has been saying for years and the lies that he comes out with. And what that shows me is that they weren't educated. They say, oh, your book says this. If you know for a fact it says it, prove it. Because every time a Muslim says to you, prove to me that this is what it says, you're unable to. And that just shows you that you're not educated. You haven't gone and learnt about it. You're just a liar. So people with those bigoted views, just because they're opposed to something, 99% of the time, they're the people that know the least about it. And that's just factual. Now, interestingly, in that video, he also asked these people that were pretending to be Christian, seriously, I'm suggesting here that they were cosplaying as Christians. They kept saying him they're Christian. We believe in putting the Christ back to in Christmas. This country is predominantly Christian. Cool, yeah, that's fine. You are not a Christian. They don't go to church. They don't live by Christian values. They don't live like Christ. And that just proves that they're not Christians. They're just pretending. And what proved it further is when Stairway to Freedom said to them, can you tell me your favourite passage from the Bible? Not a single one of them was able to say a single sentence from the Bible, any of the Bibles. And that just goes to show that it wasn't really about that. That's not what this protest was about. It wasn't about putting Christ back into Christmas. It was about anti-immigration, anti-Islam. And that's all they care about. And if they knew anything about Islam, they'd know that Jesus is a Messiah in Islam. We love Jesus. We love Mary. We love all of them. Okay? But they don't realise that. And that's because they're fake Christians at the end of the day. So just to basically rebut what this guy, Tom, the other is a different Tom, not the Tom we spoke about before, to rebut what he said about people like him or people accused of being bigots and racists know more about the things they're opposed to than the people that support them, that is factually incorrect.
Okay. Every and only white country is expected to become a blending pot of humanity.
Okay.
Once you blend something, you don't end up with the original agreement. And I oppose white genocide.
You mentioned that word twice now. What does white genocide mean for our viewers who might not know? And we don't want people to Google. We want to hear from the source. Talk to us.
Most people think genocide requires bombs and bullets. This is untrue. Any act that reduces a people in whole or in part, that targets them. And all of this diversity stuff is aimed right at white people. The white guilt is aimed at white people.
Okay.
White guilt is aimed at white people because of the crimes that they have done historically to other demographics of people, other ethnic demographics, okay? That is what that is at. It's not saying that you now are responsible, but what it is saying is that Caucasians, white people, white Europeans in particular, are responsible for large parts of horrific events that have happened around the world. The destruction of the native Australian people, the Maori people, Pacific Islanders, the destruction of Native Americans, both native to Canada, the United States, Central America and Southern America, Africa, the African slave trade, popularized by white Europeans, even if they were not the ones who initiated it, as well as the horrors that Britain and America in particular committed in the Middle East in the early 2000s. We could go on forever. Now, that isn't to say that white Europeans haven't had this similar incidents of horrors happen to them. As an Irish person, I can attest to the horrors that have occurred to us by other white Europeans, by the way. However, there have been incidents throughout history where white Europeans have been the victims of other things by other groups. However, not to the same scale as this. And that white guilt you talk about is directly linked to the horrors that were committed. Okay? If you're sat there saying that there's now a white genocide as a retaliation against that, it is total delusion. These people live in such delusion, okay? Equality feels like oppression when you've been on top for so long. And it's as simple as that.
It harms them.
Okay.
It not only fits the definitions of genocide. Lemkin himself talked about it, and he was the author of the genocide and the one who coined the phrase.
Wow.
Of course, on Wiki now, they've sort of edited that out. It's kind of hard to find. It's almost as if they're ashamed of it.
And, this is why we're talking to the good people of Zinc and trying to find out the truth from the horse's mouth themselves, so to speak, because we don't want to go to the internet. We actually want to debunk all that stuff because anyone could enter things on the internet. We want to hear from you exactly. Tom's hatred towards anyone non-white was clear. But I know as a Muslim, racism is a disease of the heart. So I shifted the conversation back to the Quran. And what he said next was shocking.
It is your holy religious text.
Hey, what else?
To be properly understood, I understand it's to be read in the original language.
Yes, which is?
Arabic.
Very nice. Wow. Tell me something more. Seriously, guys. Like, wow. MashaAllah. Go ahead.
Do you have a prayer rug?
Oh, this guy's
he does know some stuff.
What else? How many times do we pray? Do you know?
I know for a fact you do 2 a day.
It's an odd number. I'll give you a hint.
3, 4, 5.
5.
Okay.
Okay, good. Close enough.
The reason I know this is I've seen my neighbor do it at least twice in a day.
Really?
I had an Arabic neighbor before I practiced white flight.
Okay.
And
white flight. Tell us more about that.
Well, if you Google it, it is when white people...
Okay. Again, this idea telling us to Google it, you are someone who vehemently believes in this ideology, okay? You should be the source of information for this. We can all go and Google it, and I'm sure a lot of us, like I say, when I say about doing your own independent research, Googling something is a great way of doing that. However, I want to hear the argument first before I research what it is. You vehemently believe this ideology. Tell me what it is, and then I'll go and Google, and I'll fact check, and I'll source, and I'll look about the counter argument as well.
Okay.
Move from an area because it's become too diverse.
Understood.
That happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. It does. It actually does.
Yeah, if you Google black flights, you get something about the Tuskegee Airmen. If you Google Asian flight, you get a lot of plane crashes. You Google white flight, and it's called racist and bigoted, and it's something white people do. They no longer stand up for themselves. They're afraid to speak what they know, even to their closest friends often. But they spend an inordinate amount of money and effort to move away from the city, a few intersections down, and when diversity catches up with them, they move again.
Tom's knowledge about Islam was surprisingly more than the average person I met in my last video. Let me ask you, what do you know about Islam?
Nothing.
What do you know about this book?
Nothing.
How would you pronounce this book?
I don't know.
Have you ever met a Muslim before?
I don't know.
This is the first time you're meeting a Muslim.
Yes.
No way. It was strange that a racist man knew more than the average person living a normal life. So I wanted to understand, how could the KKK church claim to be a house of God, yet support racism against God's creation? Mr. Rob is running a church, right? And, we understand church is a house of God. So how does God in Christianity or religion support one race, according to what we're understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to be more superior or better than other races?
Well, here's the thing. Does it have to be superior?
If you tell me.
As a matter of fact, let's take Africa.
Okay.
You will not hear me saying Africa needs diversity. It needs to become a blending pot in every black country and only black countries.
Why is that?
I'm not going to commit genocide against them any more than I'm going to put up with it against my own race. What's good for the goose is not something that I want to impose on anyone else just because it's against my race, the white race. I'm not going to put it on any other race.
Okay. Some might hear that and think, well, good point. But here's the thing. Why is it a problem if there was diversity? Why would that be a problem? If all people of a nation, regardless of skin colour, regardless of religion, regardless of gender, regardless of whether they are able-bodied, disabled, anything else, had equal rights as the same in every single country in the world, what would be the problem? What is the issue with that? So you're talking about going there and committing a genocide by introducing white people, for example. If those white people weren't invaders, they didn't come violently, they didn't assume to be superior and needing to wipe people out, what's the problem? That isn't a genocide, that's integration. You're using the word genocide to describe normal integration, and that is your way of muddying the water to try and make it seem more of an attack against white people than it is.
Okay. So I mean, but if you have a church, so I'm just saying, like, what?
And
is
I'm not
the
a white
what's
apologist
the
either.
justification through, I guess, scripture or ideology that makes one believe that it is okay to maybe perhaps not, just want to stay with one race and perhaps think of your race is to be different from theirs? Like, what makes you think that is justified, like, is in God's name?
Among many other things, the modern church is not a Christian church.
Okay.
They don't fly the cross as much as they fly the rainbow flag. What did Jesus say about those people? He said, put them to death. And yet we embrace them today.
The same people will claim that Jesus didn't advocate for violence. There's no violence mentioned in the Bible. This is the same person who would claim that as an attack against Islam at some point.
Religion says that as well.
My religion actually does not say that. Our religion actually tells us that no white man is better than a black, and no Arab is better than a non-Arab.
I was talking about the queers, the crimes against nature.
Got you. So within Islam, just so you know, sir, within Islam...
Yeah, I know there's no distinction.
No, but within Islam, what happens is this. If a person is someone who is leaning towards that, like meaning perhaps they feel the inclination towards the same gender, what they do on their private, inside their homes, between them and God, that is their business. The moment they start openly publicizing a sin, that's when it becomes problematic, because it are now involving society. If what you feel is between you and God, and the punishment is also between that. However, we do not believe that the feeling of homosexuality is wrong, rather the act, the commission of it. Yes. At this point, I noticed Tom trying to assume my position as far as what Islam believes about homosexuality. But when I made the point, he immediately deflected.
Have you ever been to a gay pride parade?
I've seen them pass by.
You weren't happy with that, were you?
It's not about me being happy. It's just me. It goes against my values.
They're spreading their disease, though, their mental illness.
So if they have a mental illness, like you said, okay, let's assume, right? Isn't it our responsibility to help them?
Can you help the whole world?
But you can try.
Not beyond a certain point. I worked at a mental institute, and I watched patients transfer their mental problems from one to another. When you have an insane people, those who the gods have driven mad, so to say, who are out there spreading their ideology, and it's catching on, at some point you can't help everybody.
Okay.
You just have to leave them to their own devices and let them destroy themselves.
The thing with this, right, if you believe what this guy believes, then you would believe that no person is beyond saving. And again, if you believed what he believed, the only judge, jury, and executioner is God. Human beings cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. We are not the ones to pass judgment on others for their sins, if you believe in God a God, okay? If you believe in the Christian God or Islamic God, Jewish God, all verging from the same one, by the way, then you would believe that he is the one that passes judgment. Now, WAYOFLIFESQ said there that the sin is between the individual and God, and that is true. But this guy is describing it as these people, both the mentally ill and homosexuals, in his eyes, are completely beyond saving, and therefore they need to be punished. And I assume he would mean violently, because how else would you do it in his definition? And he is playing the role of the judge and the executioner, and that isn't within his own belief set if he's a true Christian. So it just confuses me what his point is here. He said he worked in a mental institute and people pass their mental illnesses on to others. You cannot live in today's world and be so flippant and almost blasé, almost denying mental health problems by saying that each person just inherits it from another. It's something that people need help with. You don't just abandon people. If that's your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, you don't just abandon them at their time of need when they need help the most. You just abandon them because it goes against what you have to say. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Either that or you go down on the ship they're busily sinking with them.
I could see that perspective.
And they have to spread this sickness to everywhere. They require sane people to pay for it. They require sane people to pay for their AIDS medications. They require people to tolerate them, which means they rub it in your...
But what about people that have AIDS transferred to them genetically through no choice of their own? They're not aware of it. They didn't know it was happening. It just happens. You know, AIDS epidemic in Africa in the 80s in particular was all over the world. They had even massive concerts and stuff to raise money to help people affected by it. What about those people? What are they guilty of that you would make such a flippant of their AIDS medication? I mean, come on.
face and you dare not show disgust.
But I see
Dare
there.
not tell them they're wrong.
So I definitely see and understand that perspective, but that's one specific group of people, and I agree with you. You know, you have to leave certain people to their devices, and I understand that. It was clear that Tom wasn't looking for a solution to help the people. Rather, he had given up on them and chose to live in isolation, thinking if he hides under his blanket, the monsters will go away. But in Islam, we never give up on people, and we continue to remind them and guide them. So I wanted to find out what makes Tom believe that the white race is superior to all the other races. It is in your creed, from what I understand, that the white race is the better race. Is that true, or is it something you do not believe, or what?
In point of fact, it's sort of, as you use the word white supremacy, the problem with white supremacy is just about everybody on earth is a white supremacist.
Think so?
Yes. Do you really think millions of non-whites want to flood into white countries to be oppressed? Or do you think they want to come here for what white people built?
Okay, to a counter to that argument, to say, because you mentioned something about mixing and diversity.
By the way, he says what white people built. White people played a part in it, but the people that also played a part in it were the slaves. People that were brought in indentured servitude. A lot of the railroads in America were built by slaves, for one, black African slaves, but also Chinese immigrants that were brought in and paid a hell of a lot less than the whites. They didn't build everything. They might have had an architect, a chief designer. However, they weren't the ones getting their hands dirty a lot of the time. Some of them were, don't get me wrong. However, it's not necessarily them who built it. So to take sole credit for it is ridiculous. And a lot of their techniques and the way of building things, the mathematics behind it, were inherited from other cultures. Arabs brought algebra and modern mathematics to Europe. they themselves inherited it from Hindus before that. So it just goes to show that you're taking sole credit for an achievement when they're not the only contributor. And it is wrong to suggest they are. And you're saying all these people, everyone in the world in some degree is a white supremacist because they want to come to white nations and live off their achievements. They wouldn't come here if white armies, white nations weren't going into their countries, destabilizing, destroying, killing, and stopping them from advancing in the same ways that Western countries do. Because the majority of modern conflicts are to stop a country from progressing. And there is always a different excuse as to why we're going in to free these people from the oppression of a tyrant. Okay. They've got weapons of mass destruction. Okay. None of this is ever proved. And you go in and commit and do more bad than good. And then they have nothing. And it's safer for them to flee. And where's the safest place to go? The affluent countries, of course. That's common sense. The same way that in the Western world, if we were living under the same conditions as a lot of the countries in the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Palestine, if we were living under those conditions and those countries were the affluent ones, we'd be going there too, saying, you did this to us, I'm coming there for a better life. You've enforced your culture, your language on us, so we're going to come there because surely that's our new home.
Early on, if you look at the history of even the United States, right, when the Europeans came over here, there were people of color, of Native American, as we call them, descent, and they were here. The people were the owners, quote unquote, of the land. But yet the white European gave them disease and spread them in the name of, like, friendship, and they kicked them out. And we have a day of celebration for that. So how, it was white flight going to what you define it, who left Europe because of all the sicknesses, but they came over here and they, what someone would say, stole someone's land.
That's the trope that's often touted out.
Okay.
My ancestors didn't steal anything. They didn't suddenly wake up. They fought for it and they took it. That's a big distinction.
So if you could fight for something, you could take it.
Find some group anywhere on this planet who hasn't done that. And if you find that group, they will be stuck in some horrible place you would not want to live.
Wow. So if you are powerful enough to take over, you do it?
If someone believes they're on stolen land, they're being immoral if they don't give it back and leave. So those people who say that, get out. I'm sure you can find a crappy place, no one will bother you. But it's not a justification, it's just a fact. And no one comes to America to live in a teepee. They come for what white people built.
Okay. So he's contradicted himself in his argument there. So what his ancestors didn't steal anything. They fought, they won it, and they took it. Okay. You took it. That in itself is an act of taking something that doesn't belong to you. Taking something that doesn't belong to you is almost the definition of theft. Now, to you, you're saying that isn't theft. They fought and they won it, in your opinion. To the victim, that is theft because you were fought against, you lost the battle, and you were ostracized from the land you call home. So it's not theft to you, but to them it is. So just because you say it's not theft doesn't mean it isn't. And it also sets a dangerous precedent. You can go and invade somewhere, and if you kill that person, if you win the battle against them, that means you have ownership of everything they have. It's a dangerous precedent to then turn around and say, well, it's not theft, it's perfectly okay to do that.
Okay.
That's a stone cold fact.
I mean, if you think about the statistics today, a lot of people are shifting over to Dubai because there's more opportunity for money, there's more opportunity for job.
Bro, Dubai is becoming a British social hub these days, the amount of British people moving there. And it's so ironic that they're so opposed to Islam and Sharia law, as they say it, but they'll go and live in a Muslim country that practices Sharia law.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. It turns out 99% of you are watching this video without being subscribed? Astaghfirullah. I'm just kidding. But subscribe before Shaitan makes you forget. Do it. Come on, do it. Button's down there somewhere. Done? Thank you. And inshallah, you receive infinite rewards. Ameen.
And prosperity happening over there. If you really look at the economic system here, in America, it's not even what it used to be, right? It's not even used to be. And the dollar quality is dipping down and depreciating. To blame that perhaps on minorities or black people or someone who's not white, that's not necessarily fair.
Diversity has come to America.
Good.
America was never founded on it.
It absolutely was. In a previous video, we have reacted to the Founding Fathers' Second Amendment Declaration. And guess who the first country to recognize the United States as a nation was? It was a Muslim one, Morocco.
It's destroying this country.
Diversity has existed in America from its inception. From its inception. To deny that is just ignorance. You're just whitewashing history.
Well, the first thing it destroys is trust.
I mean, but going to your point, the ones who discovered America built it on trust with the Native Indians, the Native Americans. They built that relationship on trust. But then we know what happened. They gave them the smallpox. They gave them the diseases.
Doesn't that mean they had the diseases?
Who? The Europeans who came.
Yes.
Yeah, so they had the disease.
If you give me a cold right now, I won't take it as a biological attack. It's just you had a cold.
It was clear that
The cold isn't going to kill you. The diseases that brought over by the Europeans were ones that they'd never been introduced to. They had no sort of natural immunity that had built up over generations where the Europeans did. And even then, those diseases back in those days were deadly to the white Europeans. So of course they're going to bring it over, introduce it to a land that has never even seen that type of disease, and it's going to have devastating effect. It's not the same as modern day. We have the miracles of modern day medicines where the common cold is called the common cold for a reason, because it's not going to kill you. Obviously, there are fatal occurrences of it through vulnerable and weaker people or people that have certain deficiencies medically. But in today's day and age, smallpox won't kill you. Measles won't kill you. Dysentery won't kill you. But in those days it will, because they didn't have the miracle of modern medicine. They didn't have generations of immunity build-up, vaccinations, okay? Suggest that, he's not going to class it as a biological attack on himself if someone transfers the cold to him, means that they can't as well. Of course they can, because they weren't as advanced. We didn't have the tools at our disposal that we have today back then.
Tom lives in a constant state of fear. A fear of losing his country, a fear of losing the white race, a fear of change. His thoughts needed to be challenged. So I pushed his thinking some more, all while I prepared to offer him a Quran.
And I wanted to speak on that actually. I love the way that WAYOFLIFESQ has enabled this conversation so far. He hasn't directly challenged him on anything yet. He's said a couple of things where he said, what about this, what about that? But he's really good here in allowing the guy to speak and say what he has to say. Because if you're directly, immediately opposing everything he says, you're not going to be able to have the conversation. You're not going to be able to potentially change the way the guy thinks by calmly and assuredly saying, well, okay, I've heard what you had to say. These are the parts where I'd like to challenge you. How about you listen to my perspective? And I can guarantee this Tom fella will be a lot more open to hearing WAYOFLIFESQ's perspective because of the way that the interaction has gone so far. But we'll see.
Unsure if Tom would accept it or reject it completely. So we continued our conversation. That's not what happened. It's not like we just shook hands. They created an environment where they all met up and they gave them blankets and they gave them supplies that they knew.
Look that up.
Please.
That was known to be false in its day, but it's a lie that still lives.
Okay.
Where's your evidence?
Medical calls. I catch
Where's your proof and evidence? Show it to us.
everything. I've never felt that I was under attack by a patient.
Okay. So when the Europeans took over the land, they took the women, they killed people and they took over the lands because they were powerful. You mentioned a big claim about diversification and stuff like that.
Why does this only apply to white countries?
Please tell me more. Go ahead.
Why is no one in Turkey saying, back in the Ottoman Empire days, and you Turks have to suffer white Turkish guilt, and
They do.
telling them they have to let...
A lot of the nations that were under the Ottoman Empire do in fact have those conversations. You don't live in those countries to know what goes on there, whether they impose Ottoman guilt on people, just because you don't hear about it, because you're blindsided by your own views. And the only thing you can see is white genocide and white guilt. So you would not even be able to see it if it was directly in front of you, if another group of people were doing it. Now, as a person of Irish descent, ethnically Irish, born in England, I've got an English accent. Essentially, I look and sound like the people that oppressed my ancestors. Now, what I can attest to is British guilt because of what they did historically, the barbarism that they inflicted on people. Okay? It doesn't mean that you don't see it, so it doesn't exist. Come on.
everybody in. Why is no one in Israel telling them, you oppressed the indigenous Israelis, the Palestinians?
Wow.
No one in Israel is doing that because they've all been brainwashed into the Zionist propaganda. But in a huge amount of countries, in fact, the majority of the population of the earth is in fact saying that to them. They are in fact saying that to them. So for you to suggest that no one is doing that no one's challenging them, no one's opposed to it, is complete delusion.
Wow.
You have to give them equality.
Do you think if you could say something to the Israel right now, what would it be? Go ahead. This is your chance. What you just said.
I don't have. I think I've said it. They know what they're doing is wrong, and they know they're being covered for.
Wow.
You know
Wow.
as well that
Governments, political ideologies, political organizations in charge of countries are covering for them, are protecting them, are allowing this false narrative of them trying to weaponize anti-Semitism against other people that challenge them. They are allowing that. They are perpetuating it. It's very important to point out that anti-Semitism is rife in the world, and it has been for generations, and it needs to be called out where it exists. But opposing a political ideology because of its oppression of an indigenous group of people is not anti-Semitism. Okay? And to any Jews that happen to watch this, we love you. We love you as people. We want you to flourish and survive. But what we don't want is people that pretend to be Jewish, using your religion, using your names to commit atrocities in the world. And the same goes for Islam. Anyone who claims to be Muslim and commits atrocities and oppresses a group of people, you are despicable.
the American press covers their backside, and you know why.
Listen, dare I say, that was a very honest statement. I have to say, because you know what, there's a lot of people who won't admit that if you actually stand up against Israel, you're known as anti-Semitic, so that you get blocked from even communicating anything. And this is what we do, right? We want to hear the perspective. So we wanted to have a genuine conversation with someone. We want to come straight like a straight arrow and just talk to you and ask you those questions and hear your responses. And I'm hearing this response. I can see your perspective, not necessarily agreeing with everything, but what you just said right now made a very, very good point. So I just want to say you made a good point. I was shocked. I found areas where, dare I say, I agreed with the most racist man in America. His take on Palestine was authentic. And though I disagreed with most of what he said, I respect the fact that he has the courage to speak his mind. But what I respect even more is the fact that you even made it this far into the video, clearly showing that you want to help spread Islam across America.
Excuse me.
One Quran is only $2. And you can even become a monthly supporter for this mission. It could be your donated Quran that delivers guidance to someone for the rest of their lives. So invest $2 in this mission by clicking the link down below. And let's guide the Ummah together.
I'm not afraid of being called an anti-Semite. Anytime I disagree with a Jewish supremacist, I'm automatically an anti-Semite.
You definitely are.
And the same with anyone.
And you mentioned a good point. Why doesn't anyone say it? And I think that there's reasons for that, as in you're going to get canceled, you're going to get this. And I this is something I want you to know as well too. I'm championing the white cause, for instance, and by that what I mean, sir, is that in Islam, the fact that if we're putting someone to make them feel guilt about their race, that is haram. It's wrong within
Exactly.
Islam. So to make someone feel wrong for being a specific race is absolutely wrong, And so in my faith, right? So because in our faith, we are opposed to that feeling. No one should make you feel guilty for being white. That's a fact.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's something that never manifests in the real world anymore. They talk about white privilege.
The problem is this guy doesn't live in the real world. Now, there's no doubt that some of what he says does happen. I'm not denying that some people are derogatory towards white people or angry and violent towards white people because of what white people have done historically. And that itself is not okay, because today, I'm not guilty of what European white people did in North America, in Africa, in Asia, in Australasia. I'm not guilty of that, So that doesn't mean that someone can oppress me as a Caucasian man because of it. But it goes both ways. You then can't oppress an Asian person, a Middle Eastern person, an African person, a Latino person, Hispanic, whatever you want to call it, because some of their ancestors did, or some of their people aren't friendly towards you. Okay, that doesn't mean fighting fire with fire is not okay. Mahatma Gandhi, famous, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Okay, as Islam says, the Arab is not greater than the white man is not better than the black man. And that's a fact. We should all be equal under God's eyes, regardless of our skin colour or our ethnicity. And there should not be such a thing as supremacy. The very idea of supremacy is the suggestion that a particular race of people, a particular religious demographic, are superior to everyone else. And that in itself is wrong and haram.
And institutional white racism. If those things actually existed, would anybody dare be bringing up that point 24 hours a day? Getting them fired from their job for the slightest provocation?
Now here's the thing, right? Regarding the job, we're going to break that down for a second, okay? White privilege, coming from a person of color such as myself, and specific diversity, specific religion, especially around in New York when 9/11 took place, I was like only 12 at that time. There was a lot of hatred and racism and prejudice and Islamophobia directed towards the Muslims, and I understand why. There's a lot of ignorance and all that sort of stuff happening, so I understand that perspective, but I grew up in this skin. I grew up in this, and for one to know that white privilege is a real thing, it's an absolute thing. To know that a person has an advantage just by their skin color, and I don't think that's your fault. So let me just make that clear. I don't think it's your fault for having a specific skin color. It is society and how we view the light skin, the lighter race, to be more beautiful, and that's a societal problem. In Pakistan, let me give you an example of Pakistan. In Pakistan, they have advertisements for skin lightening cream. In India, they have these things as well too.
This is something I was about to bring up, actually. I went to Cambodia, I've mentioned before, when I was younger, to sort of help teach English as a volunteer for a while. Every beauty product has whitener in it and is advertised as a skin whitener. And you see a lot of the brides on their wedding day will basically completely whiteify themselves to be seen as more beautiful. And that is a societal thing. As the brother has just mentioned there, in Pakistan and India, this is a common thing as well, and a lot of Asia. I don't know how things are in Africa along those lines. Please, someone let me know in the comments if there's anything similar. But that is a real thing. To deny white privilege is ignorance. We, as Caucasian people, have grown up in a society that has favoured us for decades, for generations, and you can't just deny it because now all of a sudden some other people are getting equality or preferential treatment. You can't deny it. And like I said earlier on in the video, equality feels like oppression when you've been on the top for so long. And it's important that we as white people recognise that we have been in charge because we created a system that enabled it to be like that. And now that people are being given the same opportunities, the same chances, equality in other areas, that isn't a genocide on Caucasian people. That isn't an attack on us. That's just equality. And if we want to live in a world where people aren't oppressed because of their skin colour, because of their ethnicity, because of their religion, that's how things need to be. Now, this guy, he is opposed to these things because he feels like white people are being attacked. Because, like I say, he's grown up in a system where they were given preferential treatment in every aspect, a dominant position in every aspect, even things like education. So he feels like he's being oppressed now because other people are being given those opportunities as well. Ridiculous.
Why? Because in society, we've built this idea that the light skin, the light race is more beautiful, is more optimal to the eye. So what's happening is kids, young girls, right, are developing, and young men as well, are developing complexes that, hey, I'm inferior, I'm not as beautiful as someone who's light skinned. And this is a problem that society is faced with. It's not just, white. So I want to be clear, if you're talking about sides, I'm against the act of white guilt. I don't think that that's right. And I don't think that one should be feeling, I should feel guilty for white or something happened over here. Oh, hello. Wow, okay.
Absolutely. You shouldn't feel guilty for being white. That is something that I would like to say here as well. Nobody should feel guilty for being white, just like nobody should feel guilty for being black, brown, or any other skin colour, the Dulux catalogue we can get out. Nobody should feel guilty for that. That is a very fair point.
Yeah, friends. Subhanallah, was this a sign of Tom lowering his walls? It was the first time that he heard Islam explained this way, showing him that no one should be made to feel guilty or wrong for being white. Could this be America's most racist man's heart was beginning to soften towards Islam? Let's find out.
If you research that,
Please.
that practice existed in some places before they came into contact with white Europeans. We didn't impose that on them. They decided that for themselves. But
again, I go back to the earlier point. No one has suggested that white Europeans invented these things. Not at all. Historically, ethnic cleansing has been practiced by a lot of cultures. That is true. But let's be honest, white Europeans took it to another level. They made it the most profitable business in the world. They made it global. There's the difference.
But no one can impose a standard of beauty on you. You do that for yourself.
That's a good point.
The people you hang out with may influence you. And that's one of the things that's important, choosing the people you hang out with.
That's actually a very good point. Did Sheikh Tom just drop the hardest reminder about having good company? Bro, I feel like I'm on an episode of Black Mirror right now. So this was the moment of truth. I made a sincere dua in my heart.
He did make a very good point there. No one can decide what makes you beautiful other than yourself. And that is something that, brothers and sisters, I would like you to take away from this video. That you are the one that gets to decide whether you're beautiful or not. The opinions of other people should not matter in the slightest in that aspect. We all get so bogged down with the beauty standards that are expected of us, mainly on a global scale because of how big social media is these days, but historically this has been a problem. The only people who get to decide that, brothers and sisters, is you. And I want you to take this away from this video. I would never sit here and tell you you're ugly. That's your decision. That's for you to decide. And don't let anyone else tell you that.
Asking Allah to soften his heart and to open it to accept the Quran. But what happened next caught me off guard. If I were to give you this Quran, is this something that you would actually read to learn more about Muslims, Islam, because I know you know a lot, right? But let me ask you, have you read the Quran before?
I've read parts of it.
Parts of it, right? But that's not the whole thing, obviously. But
Yeah.
and respectfully,
I don't
speaking,
necessarily believe
most of
that.
the time, the parts that we read are very specific to something that you're trying to,
Actually,
understand.
they were more like random.
Okay.
So it wasn't anything in particular.
Do you mind if I randomly open a page here and see what it says?
Okay.
Why don't you open it? Here's your own. So this was it. I challenged the most racist man in America to open any page of the Quran, having full iman that Allah would show him the right verse to hit his heart. And wallahi, even I was shocked at the verse that Allah showed him. SubhanAllah. Satan's defiance. This is about the devil and what he did, okay? And remember, when we said to the angels, prostrate before Adam, right? Which we believe Adam was built, when God made Adam, he made him from all types of clay from all across the world. That's why we have so much diversity, okay? So all they did, but not Iblis, meaning the devil, okay? Who prostrated. He said, this is what the devil said, should I prostrate to the one you have created from mud? Adding, do you see this is the one, because the devil was created from pure fire, right? So he felt he was more superior to God's command because that's mud and I'm fire, right? So we understand as Muslims that the first form of racism or prejudice comes from the shaitan, the devil, because he chose to think of himself better because of his creation versus Adam, right? So
What a mashallah beautiful page for him to open up to. Shaitan himself thinking he was superior. Iblis thinking he was superior to Adam. What a beautiful page to open up to for this particular conversation. If you'd like to know more about that, go and watch the video in our Prophet series, The Life of Adam alayhi salam, to learn more about that. But what a mashallah beautiful page for them to open up to for this particular discussion. Mashallah.
this is from the 17th chapter and the 61st verse. Right? So that was a random verse,
Yes.
and it was about that. My question to you is this, sir. If I were to give this... Yeah.
Actually, I can look it up online if I choose to read it.
Okay. Wait. Did I just get Tom, the most racist man in America, to read the Quran before GTA 6? Bro, this can't be real life.
But I probably
We're never getting GTA 6, let's be realistic.
won't go through the whole thing. I haven't been through the whole Bible yet.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you believe in a creator, by the way? Do you believe in God?
Yeah, I just don't try and define him.
Okay. Do you believe God is a man?
Well, that's the thing. In the English language, at least as it was, any male thing when talking about a group of people who were both male and female, the male term was used, but it became gender neutral.
Sure, I understand.
In the modern time, they get upset when you say the postman.
Sure. Listen, no, I hear that, but that's what I'm asking. I'm saying, do you believe that God is a man form? Like, is that what you believe God is?
I think he's a little beyond that. I think at least I would not recognize it as such.
Do you believe Jesus was a messenger of God?
In the Christian faith, he is God.
But according to you, because do you believe that? Because you said you haven't been through the Bible, so I'm just asking you as a one-to-one conversation. Do you believe he was a messenger?
Well, I was the Christianity in general has God is three: the Holy Ghost, the Father, and the Son.
Yeah.
And the Son was sent here to gain us salvation.
Okay.
And
Do you believe that?
that seems good enough for me.
Okay. So do you believe that
I don't.
God?
I do know that among Muslims, some view Jesus as a prophet, but not the prophet.
So you mean by the prophet meaning the main prophet?
Yes.
So we understand Jesus to be a messenger of God, and we believe he's a prophet of God, of course. And we believe he had mighty miracles, and we believe that he came from the Virgin Mary, and we believe that he raised people from the dead by God's permission, healed the blind, the sick, the leopard by God's permission. But we do not believe that he ever claimed to be God or have divinity or claim to be God with himself, nor did he ever call people to worship him. This is an innovation that the liberals and the people of their time, because liberals always existed. You understand?
Yes.
You get what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They always existed. So these people, to fit in Constantine, historically speaking, when he wanted to take this religion to the Romans, right? The Romans were heavy into paganism. So what did he do, right? A typical liberal thing, right? They mold it and change it to fit the people. True or false, right? That's what they do.
Yes.
So, and this is what Constantine did. He wanted to fit this for the liberals of Rome, and he changed the Bible in the Treaty of Nicaea, dumping certain verses that goes against what they're trying to say, and he made it very pagan. All these holidays and all these things, celebration that Jesus never attributed to, these were all celebrations of nature, and this is paganism. So even what people are celebrating today, that is not what Jesus taught. So if you really are thinking about it, Jesus had a very pure message to worship God alone, right? And even when he went to the Garden of Yosemite and he bowed his head, he prostrated with his head to the ground. That's how the Muslims pray. The Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, she wore a scarf. Look at any statue or picture. She wore a scarf. That's the hijab. You understand? This is the message of Islam.
I've said this to people before. Every depiction of Mary, she's wearing a hijab.
This is what they've had to do.
Nuns wear hijabs.
One of the things
Let's call it
say
something
to you,
else.
You may or may not know.
Please.
Jesus was asked of the commandments, what is the greatest?
Sure. What did he say?
He said, to love thy God with all thy heart.
Yes.
And the second, like unto the first, love thy people with all thy heart.
So if you love thy people, do you love people of all faiths and all colors? Because
the closer they are to me, the more I love them.
Okay.
You love your wife more than you love me, don't you?
Definitely.
Okay, I will
It's
love
because, you know,
people
I don't go that way, respectfully speaking.
I mean,
That
just
too.
in general.
I know, but I hear that. But God is not putting that speciality. He's not putting that asterisk sign.
Yeah, he's not
God is saying, like you said
categorizing
in the quotation of that, is to love all the people. So
Love in
do you feel
general,
like you are
not
acting
specific
upon
love.
Christ-like when
Romantic
this type of
love,
behavior
you know?
takes place, where
It's not
one thinks one
specified.
race is better than the other. I'm just asking.
What kind of person would I be if I allowed my own race to go extinct by white genocide?
Okay.
He's still back. He's still on this. He hasn't
And
changed
just
his
like
mind.
that, my battery died. Our conversation continued off camera, and I gained a richer understanding about racism from the most racist man in America. Here's what I learned. Racism stems from fear. The fear of loss and the fear of change.
Yeah.
It's a disease of the heart that affects all parts of the body. And there's no place for that in this world. So if you
Absolutely.
think that I should go revisit Tom, spend a day with him, and do a part 2 to this interview, get this video to 15,105 likes, and I'll go back to Arkansas to visit Tom. But for now, links down below if you want to donate a Quran. And until next time, I'm out.
Okay, there we go. That was WAYOFLIFESQ and his interaction with supposedly the most racist man in America. Do I believe he's the most racist man in America? In all seriousness, no, I don't. I think there's probably a lot worse people than him. He was educated to some degree in a lot of areas. He had a lot to say, but I also think ignorance prevailed at the end. He still has this delusion in his mind, and it boils down to the fact that equality feels like oppression because white people have been on top for so long. I do think these conversations are extremely important. If you've made it this far, I salute you. Thank you for staying with us for this long. I think these conversations are extremely important to have, and it's important to do them in a calm, controlled way. A shouting match, stuff like that, for this topic, I don't think is going to benefit anyone. No one's going to change this perspective through that. But I do think it's an important conversation to be had. I don't know if WAYOFLIFESQ needs to make a part 2 of this. We'll see. I mean, I'm going to like the video anyway, and hopefully it gets to the like mark that he asked for. But they had a long conversation. They discussed their personal views, religious views. He didn't seem to change his mind at the end. Now, I think he just needs more education and more time learning that he's not being replaced. He's not being oppressed. Things are just getting better across the board for everyone, regardless of their skin colour. And that can only be a positive thing. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me know what you think in the comments. How do you feel that conversation went? What do you think of the particular individual, Tom, that WAYOFLIFESQ was talking to, and his views? I want you to have your say. I don't know if this is going to be the last video of the year. It might be. And if it is, I wish everyone a wonderful new year, and we'll see you in 2026. I apologise for my appearance and the sound of my voice. I'm ill, as I said. But if you like this video, you've made it this far, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, help the channel grow, and I tell you what, we'll see you next time. Peace.